Welcome to the Huntington Way Show, where we help parents navigate the educational maze. I'm your host, Yvonne Strachan, author and founder of InspirationalHomeschooling.com. Today's guest is Garrett Thiesen. He's a homeschool graduate, and we're going to talk about concerns that people have about homeschooling. You're listening on Power Talk 1040 AM, 98.5 FM, and 95.7 FM. Please like and subscribe to Power Talk 1040 on YouTube. Welcome to the show, Garrett.
Thank you very much.
It's so great to have you here. I'm excited to talk about homeschooling and your experiences.
Awesome, so am I.
So I am curious, why did your parents decide to homeschool?
So it originally goes back to when my older brother was in public school. He has autism and pervasive developmental delay, so public school is always a challenge for him. And my mom was also teaching at that same school, and she just decided, after seeing him in the hallways because he just couldn't keep up with the educational stuff, she wanted to teach him at a rate that he could learn at that was successful for him, because the public school just had a hard time accommodating for it. So when she pulled him out of public school and started homeschooling him, she just decided from then on that all of her kids, me, my younger brother, and my older brother Jacob, we would all be homeschooled because she would rather her be able to teach us to our fullest capability rather than someone else that she didn't know.
Yeah, I think I see that in a lot of homeschool parents, that they really have a heart for their children and they just want to develop and help them in every way possible. Because, you know, sometimes the public schools or any of those brick and mortar schools, they can't always change the curriculum or slow down to each individual's needs because they're teaching a big group. And so I love that your mom did that. That's one of the reasons why I homeschool too, is being able to help my oldest daughter who has the Turner syndrome. And so I imagine that your homeschool days may have looked different when you were younger, and also different depending who else was being homeschooled. Can you speak to that?
So yes, absolutely. So not only was my mom just learning how to do it, homeschooling is always such an experience, not only for the students, but also for the parents teaching. So as we got older, we went from more hands-on. My mom would be the main teacher. She'd be the one who would teach us all the basic things. As we developed older, our curriculums changed and we found what works for us, we started to get more independent. It started with like teaching textbooks, the math program that we used, and it kind of spiraled off of there. And eventually we joined actually a homeschool co-op to find a bunch of like-minded homeschool families. And it almost morphed into an interesting form of homeschooling where it's my mother's still teaching us in some things, but then we have other homeschool mothers teaching us in other things that they have their strong suits in. So we have a homeschool mother who teaches history, a homeschool mother who excels in sciences. So as we got older and homeschooling went on with my older brother, myself, and my younger brother, we went from more just hands-on. My mother was just teaching us to more of different professors, different teachers, and more like a self-driven, self-taught style education.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I've talked to a lot of different companies that were created by homeschool parents, and it's always guided by their interests and their passions and how they want to give back to other families and the homeschool community. And I love that we can tap into each other's strengths and help all the different kids within all the different families. We've done a little bit of co-op as well in our homeschool, and so I'd like to hear a little bit more about some of the things that were offered, how your relationships developed in that co-op as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So with the co-op, not only does it offer the unique experience of being able to homeschool with a bunch of other families, co-ops can be from any size, from 5 families to, we had, I think, 12 or 15 families in our co-op, probably even more. There was a lot of kids. We always met like a Tuesday morning, and we went for almost a normal school day. It was 6 hours. Then we would go home, we had the rest of the day off, and the next day we just do our homework assignments. And we use programs like Google Classrooms and stuff to keep up with our homeschool homework and everything. And the dynamic went on Tuesday, the day we met, all of the homeschool moms, before like the co-op started, when they formed it, each mom who had a particular strong suit. We had a mother who was really good at art, so she was like, I will teach an art class. I'll host an art class, put your students in it, I'll teach them. We had other moms who were like, I really like history, I like writing, so we had a bunch of these classes in rotation. So it was almost like a normal school. We did it at a church, where we had different rooms that we set up as classrooms. And we'd go for class for an hour, hour and a half. We'd be done, we'd have 5 minutes to get to the next class, and we'd do it, and we'd get our assignments kind of then. And we'd go throughout the day, we'd have a lunch break, we'd play gaga ball or whatever they set up in the gymnasium of the church we were in. It was a really good experience to be able to be with a bunch of like-minded students, to be able to make friends there. It was really, really good for my older brother, because he found people who were like-minded like him. So not only were there other people who had learning disabilities and stuff that he was able to be grouped into, that he got along with and felt connected with, but there were people that my younger brother and I were able to connect with that we still talk with to this day.
Wow. So when you're part of a co-op, and for our audience, co-ops are basically a bunch of families that get together and offer different classes and help each other out. And usually it's like 1 or 2 days a week. And it can be very small, like you just have a couple families get together and one mom teaches art and another one teaches music, or it could be something big and more organized, kind of like what Garrett is talking about. So I think the great thing about co-ops is the families are all involved, and so you do kind of culture those relationships, not just within friendships, but within the families as well. So being that you're all together and you're learning together and you develop those relationships as the families, I'm thinking that there might be some possibility of running into maybe things that are difficult that each of you need to talk about. Can you speak a little bit to that? Because I'm thinking if families are together and something happens that one sees, maybe parents can address those much easier than they could in a public school where they don't see anything.
Yes, co-ops are great because the parents, it's usually all the mothers, the fathers are out working or doing whatever, so it's all run by the ladies. They always convene over lunch, they'll be talking all together. And it's really cool to be able to see a bunch of parents, to be able to work out problems, whether it is with their students or problems that they're having with other parents and students, or challenges that they're having with like curriculum or inexperience with teaching things. So it's really neat that they're all able to come together, they're able to sit in on other parents' classes to see what their students are being taught. And because it's only 1 day a week, then the rest of the days you go home, the parents are hands-on, so they know exactly what their students are doing. They do the homework with them, sometimes having trouble, so they're able to call up the other parent, say, hey, we're stuck on this, do you have offer any advice, or I'm not really agreeing with this, let's talk through it, let's go for lunch, let's go for coffee, let's meet next week during lunch and let's talk about it. It's really, really great that the teachers, also all the mothers, are really invested in their child's education. So not only are most of the mothers teaching the class, but they also are able to just see the other classes that are being taught, and it's just really, really hands-on, really focused, and everyone knows what's going on. It's just really good. It formed for cohesive co-op. There will always be like a little bit of drama and a little bit of pot stirring every once in a while from the families who like to keep things interesting. But for the most part, it's really nice because everyone can come together and agree to disagree, or flat out disagree. So it's really cool. At the end of the day, it's all good.
Yeah, so there's a lot of people that really think about the socialization part of homeschooling, and it sounds like as a co-op, you are dealing with all of these different relationships. So when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about that and some of the concerns that parents have about homeschooling. Thank you for sharing this overview of your journey, and we will see you soon. Welcome back to the Huntington Way Show. You're listening on Power Talk 1040 AM, 98.5 FM, and 95.7 FM. Please like and subscribe to Power Talk 1040 on YouTube. I'm your host, Yvonne Strachan, and I'm here with Garrett Thiesen. He is a homeschool graduate, and we are talking about some of the concerns that people have about homeschooling. Now, we talked a little bit about co-ops and relationship building aspects of the homeschooling, and I know that is one of the things that people are often concerned about is the socialization aspect. So you can talk a little bit more about that?
With socialization, definitely one of the stereotypes attributed to homeschoolers is they're unsocialized, they have limited opportunities, and they do not have the same social pressures and social experiences as public school students or even private school students. So honestly, it comes down to if your parents are socialized or like social activities, chances are you're going to be the same. So like if your parents are extroverted, you're going to be extroverted most likely. If your parents are introverted, most likely you're going to be introverted. So it doesn't matter if you're homeschooled or public school in some regards, because it kind of depends on your parents. Whether you go to public school or homeschool, you're going to be how your parents are. And another form is you're going to be as socialized as you want to be, and your parents are going to have you engage in as many social activities as they want it to be. Even if you're homeschooling, I homeschooled in Montana. Very few people live in Montana. Per capita per mile is super low. So the chances of being like going social gatherings and being socialized in the stereotypical form is much lower, especially where I live. But I still had a very socialized life because my parents really wanted me to be able to live a life that any teenager, any young kid should. So it's homeschooling or unsocialized is just a stereotype people like to attribute, and it's very true. A lot of homeschooling families are more relatively, they stay away from the social connection, but that's their family's choice. It's just up to the family. If you want to be socialized, you will be able to be socialized and get out and do things. And if you don't, chances are you'll be on the less socialized side. It's just up to the family, the parents. It's just a choice, honestly.
Yeah, and I was a public school and Christian school student, and I think I was very shy when I was young, and actually am a lot less shy now than I ever was before. And I don't attribute that really to where I was at. It was just more my personality at the time. And so I think, speaking to it in those terms really does ring true throughout pretty much everybody. So did you notice some of the different perspectives in whether somebody is homeschooled or not homeschooled, whether they were, less confused about who they are or just being true to themselves, true to God, or anything like that? Do you notice kind of a difference between your friends? Because I know you have some friends that are in the public school system and then some that are homeschooled.
Definitely a difference, a noticeable difference. Public school, it's very generalist. Everything they're teaching, while you can get specific to some degrees, you're teaching a large group of people. You can't teach on one specific thing to a large group of people because a bunch of people aren't going to agree with that. So you have to teach some sort of generalist idea. So trying to develop a relationship, let's say with the Lord, and a very family dynamic, that's going to be extremely hard in a public school setting if you're going off of just what's being taught, because that's not what the majority focus is. Majority focus is more generalist academic like things, more social, rising social pressures and ideas. So homeschooling is definitely awesome for that regard because you can focus in on what works for you, what you believe, your specific practices and beliefs. Whether you believe in the Lord or not, or you believe in this type of line of thinking or this type of line of thinking, homeschooling is awesome because it allows your parents and yourself the flexibility to make a choice instead of just be taught something that's supposed to be a very generalist, light approach to everything. Homeschooling is really nice in that regard. And yes, I have several friends, really, really good friends. Some of my best friends are actually, we're in the public school system and are in the public school system. And while some are like, I could never be homeschooled, I don't know if I'd be able to focus or anything. Definitely a couple of my friends would say like, homeschooling, your parents are teaching you, your parents usually care for you the most out of anyone, so to be able to have teachers who really, really care about you is something that the public school system just can't have just by a force of nature. It's just too difficult for a teacher to really have extreme focus and caring for all the many students they have. So homeschooling is super, super awesome because it allows the students to have a sort of connection to their teacher, which is their parent. Not only does it make them grow closer together as a family, because you're at home or you're always with your mother, your father, and you have that dynamic on education, but also you're not put with other people who have differing beliefs, and you don't have to feel like you have to conform to generalist social pressures. You you get to make your own choices as a homeschooling student. It's really nice.
Yeah. Now, I'm thinking too, when you attend high school, a lot of people are like, well, what opportunities is a homeschool student missing out on? Maybe they don't get to go to a dance, or how does that get incorporated? So can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, so with opportunities, it's just, do you want to have a lot of opportunities or do you not? It's a choice. If you want to have a lot of opportunities as a homeschool student, you're going to find them. There are homeschool communities that are online. If you ask around, you're going to find out. They're everywhere, and they're totally willing to put things on. So even I live in Montana. I live in a little small city just south of the Canadian border in Montana, and the homeschool community there is fantastic. They put on dances every week. They do theater. They work with even public schools to make sure that the students are be able to come together just as the next generation, not even public school versus homeschool, just the next generation coming up. So my homeschool experience was full of dances. I got to attend other schools' proms. Even if I was a homeschooler, we were able to get the connection set up, and the schools worked with us because we just put ourselves out there. We were able to go to homeschool plays and had the chances to take part in those theater productions. We were able to go to homeschool field trips and tours that they offer. It's just, if you want to have the opportunities of homeschool, you just got to put yourself out there and go look for them. Because public school, it's all geared towards that, because that's how businesses usually and other opportunities like to be known, as they just go to a public school, everyone's there, you put out something, everyone sees it, and it's less for homeschoolers. But there's no hesitation when it comes to finding opportunities for homeschoolers. Everyone wants to take part, and at the end, everyone wants to have a good time.
That's so true. Yeah, so it sounds like for homeschoolers, as long as we're looking for the opportunities and we advocate for what we feel that our children need, that they will have a full, well-rounded experience in addition to a good education. Do you also have something to say about the different family dynamics that you've noticed from public school students and then also for homeschool students?
Yes, that is a huge one. So my family dynamic, we're all at home, and even if we are going out doing our own thing and we come home at the very end of the day, we have that base relationship. My brothers and I have that base relationship with each other, because not only did we have to put up with each other in the same home, the only break we got from each other was on Tuesdays when we go to co-op, we also have the relationship with our parents. My mother was able to come in, and I know her teaching styles. I know exactly what she believes religiously and morally and socially, and I'm able to have those conversations with her. When we come across some problem, I don't come home from school and hey mom, my professor taught about this, what's your opinion? My mom's able to say, now this is what they teach, this is what we believe, this is how it works, this is how it doesn't, here's your choice, make a decision on that, let's talk about it. We have those conversations where it's all three of my brothers, oldest brother, me, my younger brother. We sit down, mom's like, all right, let's talk about this. You'll hear about this all the time. Let's talk about it. Let's have some discussion. Dad's gonna come home for lunch. We're gonna talk about it. It's a fantastic dynamic where the family's constantly communicating with each other. And they say communication is key, and homeschooling really, really allows that communication to be a major key. And some of my public school friends, they say they come home from public school, they're tired, they're whatever happened that day, they're either full of energy or they're completely drained of energy, and their parents are just going off of, all right, do you want to talk? Are you going to tell me what's going to happen? Are you going to remember any of it? And so it's a major disconnect from the students to the parents. Even if they really love to communicate, the parents aren't going to see exactly what's going into their student's head, and who their kids are communicating with, who their kids are hanging out with. They only have a fair idea, oh, they're hanging out with this person. Well, it sounds like they're a great person, or it sounds like they keep out of trouble, or maybe they're not such a great person, but we don't know. We don't know them themselves because they only see them at school. So the public school dynamic, while it's definitely capable, and there are definitely families who have great success stories in the public school system, private school system, homeschooling just takes the opportunity for communication and the family to talk things over, and it just ramps the opportunity up tenfold.
Yeah, so less confusion,
Mm-hmm.
more debate.
Absolutely.
And a deeper relationship with your parents, because you don't have the schools kind of putting themselves in between that. So you may be more solid in who you are and your beliefs, and probably less likely to waver.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I love what you shared here. Thank you for putting our listeners at ease about socialization, and then just bolstering the fact that homeschooling is so good at building relationships, encouraging debate, and really helping you know who you are and who you want to be in life. Join us next time when Garrett and I will discuss how the unique combination of his homeschool and extracurricular activities prepare him for the future. This is Yvonne Strachan, today's host on the Huntington Way Show, where we support you in educating your kids. Thank you for joining us.